My energy ecliptic. Love's circle persona. Self love, best love, world love. You knows my honor. Greetings, that be your host, Mr.BasTiEn, and peace, prosperity, power. It's my honor to share my affirmations, visualizations, and unison manifestations and all satisfactions. The mind, body, and soul is to grow in all facets. Presented in procreation, this is MB9T podcast show. May you be at peace in whatever the action is proclaiming, ascending the greatest of all satisfaction like your goals are bullseye, your actions the dart, believe in you no matter the ending or the start. For your life, must you claim it. EPCS, right? If you habla español, EP6, if you speak my Creole language, or let's just keep it American. Welcome to episode 6 of MB9T podcast show. Today's show titled Inner Excellence versus Outer Detriment. Inner excellence. How do we comply that? Excellence, the wording itself is extracted by the actions that humans within our analogy of what would be good or what would be bad. So excellence comes from an outer term from the perspective of what's good or great, right? Inner excellence, you're dealing in the spectrum of what's, you know what? Let's go with it with the topic of like thinking of whereabouts and careabouts, right? So your inner excellence, you're more deriving into the intuition flow of your life purposes, right? Amongst what's joyful to you, what brings you happiness, right? What's not equated to be in the control of, whether it's people, places, and things, right? The feeling of the wind, grasping your skin, the emotional touch by the gravitational pull that is erupted when your feet touches when your bare feet, touches the grass, right? There's so many relinquished factor of finding excellence in life by being intuitive. The beginning process of inner excellence obviously is going to start dealing with the mind, right? The mind upon how much you know of yourself when it comes to that self-love. Inner excellence goes into the spiritual perspective of how you can see the greatness of yourself, not only just in you, but within others. Inner excellence speaks on to you complying where unconditional love begins. And that starts with self. So the gravitational pull amongst fights in a sense of differences, you have also the opposition of inner excellence would be the outer detriment. Or you can say outer excellence to that perspective, right? But for me, instead of using inner excellence and outer excellence, I perceive from my upraising, I perceive from my education that the outer experiences are more detrimental rather than the inner intuition guiding us to that perspective of what we shall be doing by people, places, and things, right? So when you come into the aspect of what is the difference of inner excellence versus outer detriment, it starts right off the bat with the teaching of self-love, right? The self versus others. And based upon your upraising, this can be a very confusing factor to you, right? Because for most people, giving love is the best thing they know, and they fulfill that to be the best thing, right? Or for some people, it's about if I give this amount, I expect to give this amount back. That's how I know it's love, right? For some, it goes into the narcissistic view in the aspect of like, no, I get what I want. That's when I know I'm in love. But that doesn't mean I have to treat you the same. That doesn't mean I have to do the same for you. So with love comes the derived compliance, right, of what everyone's expectation is based on their upraising, right? Whether you had a mother and father, guardians, or whoever, those who supported you and guided you, if you have that, it kind of naturally construct you in a place where you're not actually comprehending how those things were guided from you or given to you, right? Because it's just naturally for you to comprehend that this is what comes with me being as I am. Like whether it's aunts, aunties, like I said, whoever that does and give to you, if this is what you're accustomed to, there's not much more for you to understand what it is. So if you groom to the idealization of wording based on how words make you feel to be in a way of expressing your love, then that's gonna be big for you based on what people say to you and how they say it to you, right? If you're accustomed in the upraising where gifts was a view of the way love was expressed to you, then again, the amount of things or what people are able to do to you is gonna be your way as an adult to decode such love, right? Whether it's the affection, right? So su- if you were provided affection early in your childhood, and that affection soothes your soul to what you feel is impactful to you, then that's going to be another mirror of what your love language possibly going to aim to be more closer, right? So the teaching of love has a lot to do amongst how you're going to be able to view such inner excellence or be guided by whatever the outer surround, whatever society, whatever the social standards may be, right? The outer detriments. And that's why I wanted to comply, whether, like I said, to inner excellent and outer excellent, because with the outer experiences, it's a very plague perspective of what's going to be truthful to you, right? Because what works for somebody else doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you, right? What may be bad for somebody doesn't mean it's going to be bad for you. So the reason why I proclaim that side to be more on the outer detriment perspective is because when you learn something from other people, places, and things, it's about 30% truthful, right? And what I mean by that, it's 33% truthful to you because the other 2/3 of that comes from the siding of you having a compelling emotional feel to that people, place, or thing to be as what the surrounding says it to be, right? And then upon the opposition of your education and your knowledge, comply to that to be true. So when you look at truth in totality, it goes into the realms, one, that it actually resonates with your spirit and your soul. It makes sense to how you comply such, right? Two, educationally based on your surrounding or your knowledge of such truth, right? It is actually factual amongst what 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 the rest of the world complied to be, right? And then thirdly, it goes into the action that this was something that you was able to experience firsthand, not heard from someone else, not told from someone else, not his story, right? Because again, his story is his story. This person's perspective of what occurred. Artistry is the change in connection. meaning that you had the experience firsthand. You was able to withstand the action that experienced such people, place, or thing to be truthful, right? So with dealing with anything that you learn in an outer experience way, that takes, again, like I said, in breaking that down, whatever you learn in the outside perspective is 1/3 of the truth, because you still gotta put in the opposite 2/3, which is okay, you learned or saw this, but it could mean this or that in this perspective or this variation. So one way to kind of view the outer detriments, I would say, is to kind of polarize them, right? Having an understanding that there's duality in everything in life. So when somebody tell you or show you something, comprehend there's multifaceted that you can go about that, and there's multi ways. Like again, the terminology of skinning a cat, right? Many ways of doing so. And I'm not a cat skinner, so don't come for me, Peter, whatever your name is. And the topic went for me in the flow perspective because inner accident and outer detriment for me goes to the social construction of how our society is pretty much given that red and blue pill perspective of things, right? So obviously we're in a day and age where social media is the, I guess you can say conglomerate, right? Or the perspective of how algorithm is utilized to, dare I say, control the masses amongst what's in our thought process, right? So with that social construction, I found that society wants, it's like the 1% in the of rich and the rest, right? So we don't want what is it? It's like the rich and the poor, but you don't want the middle class, right? So with the social construction of how our society is set, in society where it's rich and poor, it goes to the social perspective of you're either an influencer, right, as a defined as a leader, or you're a follower, right, a victim that's being influenced by people, placing their things. So even with that terminology, I think it's crazy that a lot of people don't even take into consideration of, bro, this is a new terminology for a career path. What are you in 2025? I'm an influencer. I change people. I influence people to do things, and I, which then complies for such and such I'm sorry, not government companies, right? To want to market with me and brand with me in the sense of that since I got so much power to so much control, then hey, why not give me a bag, whatever you want to say, give me some bread, and it's like boom, I'll tag you in this post, or I'll shout you out this, that, and third. So like everything that is in the sense of being a celebrity, an icon, is where the term influencers come from, right? So naturally, we always understood entertainers were naturally influencers because it's like, okay, Beyonce it's early 2000s. Just give an example, right? Beyonce is one of the hot girls as far as like her music, beauty, all that, right? So it's like, okay, what you noticed in the early 2000s was that, okay, if I'm a magazine cover, if I'm a big brand, this, that, and the third, I want stars, right? I want true celebrities from the aspect of the true greatest musicians, right? I want the best actors and actresses, right? I want the best of the best at that time because it was grafted upon you actually being entertaining from the perspective of what you do as an artist, right? Now you fast forward that to this day and age where the clout is bigger than the actual art, right? The fact that you have clout, right, or that you can have so many people galvanize upon you, like so you got, like for example, sorry, I'm not too social enough. Okay, like, but again, you have what is called right. Another word for influencers from that perspective would be what is called streamers, right? So top guys like a Kai Cenat, and you saw the rollout last year to where this dude just came on the scene, but because his influence and his clout was so big, he had top A list, B list, whatever you want to name it, celebrities having to come to him, right? Dropping a rollout like, hey, I got a new album, I gotta go see Kai. And it's like, that's the transgression of what my conversation was, is that it just showcased to you like how much it's not about actual truth of matters. It's not the actual perspective of what's happening and how much we can see the results of being right or wrong. It's just literally being influenced and following such person guideline because that person has such a big fan base or so much money behind them that you just say like, okay, whatever they say, go. And that's a very scary output to have in society if you're living as one of those influencers or follower, because the input behind that is that whoever influencing you really is not actually helping you aid yourself to become more free. You're more trapped into that person's mindset of what you want to be rather than actually viewing yourself in moments of inspiration from that person or person, place, or thing, right? Whatever it could be that aids you rather than keep you in a disarray, right? So a lot of us are naturally are victims to this society that proclaim us under propagandas, right? Meaning that like the art of manipulation, right? So in that same example, it's kind of like when you look at cars, how cars are being built. When you look at shoes, when you look at clothing and things of that nature, right? All these things where we are in society. Okay, you know what? Before I decode that, I'll give you a little further depth and example. So if you would just go back in the early, I'm talking about like 1920s, right? Those time of living, people were living off necessities, right? Meaning that at that time, cars companies didn't even think of colors because it's like, hey, a person need a car to get to point A, point B to go see their family that's probably far away, things of that nature, right? Men and women, you have a work shoes, you have a going out shoes, and then you may have like a house shoes, right? It's the necessity of things. But clearly, and I'll fast forward it to this day and age where we at in 2025 and so on, we're more adjourned of having things that's not needs, but they're complied to needs because we're steadily keeping up with a society that's feeding us new sources of materialistic items every day. So with where one term you learn that would be the naming or the title of keeping up with the Joneses, that's also really the realistic circumstance that we're dealing with when it comes with keeping up with the bills, right? Keeping up with inflation. So it's the rules that's guiding us amongst our morals and principles when it comes to our way of life, when it comes to our nutritional aspect of what is good or what is bad, when it comes to our financial understanding of money, right? It's very plagues. It plagues wholeheartedly on our emotions rather than a logical approach. And the system itself, when it comes to our government, our country as Americans or in the Western hemisphere is set to be a capitalistic system, right? The system doesn't worry about your mental stability. It doesn't worry about your spiritual development. It doesn't worry about your physical detriments, like not even detriment, but your physical deterioration from having such bad habit. Whether it's not physically you're not taking care of yourself, whether it's mentally not being a person that's accountable to their action and doings, right? Taking the ownership to the lifestyle that they're living because it's controlled and influenced by someone else, right? The spiritual realm that goes into that because you're constantly closing your, how can I say, you're constantly closing your own insight to what your life should be as you're living a life that's in the sense of comparing yours to others, in the sense of looking at others' life as a way to live your life, right? That's hard. It just takes that much. It makes a situation like that very hard for you to find your inner excellence, right? Dealing with such. So in that, I want to galvanize into the motion of how I've gathered and was able to get to that point in place in my life with inner excellence is through my comprehension of willpower. And it's willpower to me is it's an alignment with your spirit. Willpower is discipline, it's focus, is you pretty much knowing of yourself and knowing what's needed to be done and not making excuses behind it, right? So, for example, for me, I'm into health, right? I'm into health. I'm into the personal training aspect. I'm into the wellness aspect of our body. I'm into the nutritional perspective, understanding that food is medicine, right? It's not that like, oh, food is for craving or tasting, and then when you feel sick, you go get medicine from a pharmaceutical from a pharmacy that offer you different compounds that's extracted from what should be original medicine, like different like leaves and so on and so forth. But from that extraction of compound, some maybe 10 different other things are being mixed, right? To where naturally with those what is called treatment, right? You get side effects. Why never do they comply ailment? Because the true medicine of that's provided through earth soil won't 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 request or ask of you to become a customer, right? So the reason that these compounds are extracted and made into multitudes of things that treat this but give this another side effect is because, again, like I was stating earlier, with the outer detriment of how our society treat us, is that they don't really too care about the well-being overall. Besides how much money can be made or be done, right? It's again, if I heal you, there's no reason for you to come back. But if I treat you, I got you now plugged in forever, right? So for me, in the developing of my willpower, it's tough for me to answer because my willpower is a part of my spirituality. So in one way, I think I've always been a driven person. Not I think I know I've always been a driven person, and I apologize not to have a direct example of how I've garnished that ability, but I can explain this right. So for me, the beginning of my life amongst my upraising having a more singular viewership to how I'm able to figure out life, meaning that like I didn't grow up with a mother or father that pushed me into a corner, meaning that like you're this, you're that, you're Christianity, this, that, and third. Of course, like for me, I'm a melanin brother. Of course, for me, I have Haitian background. I speak Creole, things of that nature. So yeah, I know those things of me. But what I mean by that, because I was abandoned, I was neglected from my birth parents, raised by a multitude of beautiful women, and some men in the aspect of uncles, whoever that were there. Because I didn't have that direct guidance to say, okay, I am my father, I am my mother. I was guided by my spirit in the sense of, okay, this person is bad, this person is mean, okay, this person is good, this person is joyful. this person likes me. This person looked at me and they're rolling their eyes. They're agitated, right? So early on for me, my willpower was an open vessel for me to look into, as I had no one to feel it for me, in the sense of like telling me this or telling me that. It's like trials and tribulation was really the way I was able to judge what would be good, or what would be deemed to be good or bad in my life, right? So in one way, I never knew my own intuition was so bright, as clearly I'm living in I'm living in the flesh for the first time, right, through the body experience. So everything that I may think I know or I may feel was always questioned in my early young years, because it's kind of like, wait, these people are older than me, or this is shown to be this way, or the normal way of living looks like you're supposed to have a mom or a dad. How come I don't? Right. So a lot of those, because you're not in the knowing of who you are, and you're experiencing the outer experiences. It's like you're comparing the outer experiences to be the best one, as to what you truly feel intuitively at that moment, right? Because you don't know. It's just how you're feeling, right? So with me, now I can say, now I'm looking back in my conversation of thoughts, it's like I can't really separate when I was a man, for example, in my life, when, in a sense, like, for some people it's like, oh, I went to college, I got a job, whatever. I had to get evicted. I had to leave my mom's house or my dad's house, whatever. This, that, and third. I got pregnant. I got a kid. A lot of things for some people. Oh, like I grew facial hairs. A lot of things for some people are moments to where there was adults, right? But for me, it's a hard, complex circumstance, as I don't know, like since 12, I've been getting it on my own, not to the highest form of getting it my own, but to think for myself, to feed myself, to clothe myself, right? To choose the right people to be around, right? Choosing the friendship, right? Things like that. It was an early stage in developing for me. So I've always been intuitively having to gather what's right and wrong for me. And I think for me, it's never something that I'm out of place anywhere, because I know you could place me anywhere on God green's earth, excuse me, life's green earth. That I speak potency. I speak potency amongst that. I understand that emotions are emotion. We all laugh. We all cry. You know what I'm saying? There's no language is a barrier that separates us, but in reality, by totality, we all connected by the human ways of being, the human ways of doing, right? We could be different in height, language and skin color, so on and so forth. But in reality, the human experience is still a human experience, right? We still got to lift our legs to walk. We still got to move our hands, or grab things to pick up things, right? It's not too much in that perspective for me, rather than hoisting that idealization that without me having those circumstances, I wouldn't know inner excellence, in a sense, because yes, my attempt in this conversation is to implore you, if you lack inner excellence, to employ more willpower into your livelihood. But at the same time, it's hard for me to convey to you what willpower is not intuitively if you're not intuitively studying yourself, if you're not practicing silence, right? Silence in the sense of silence is a powerful conversation, but within silence itself is where you're able to learn more, right? within observing either yourself, places, and things where you're able to get insightful information from your own mind, right? Sometimes when you quiet your own surrounding, can the inner excellence be expressed outward more? So for me, my willpower galvanized my inner excellence because my beginning was somewhat captured by negativity wanting me to feel less of the greatness that I'm born with, right? That's built within me. But like I was telling you, inner excellence is something that's gravitated to be exerted only if that person know of themselves or their surrounding teach them of how much greatness they have within themselves and how much they can employ such out, right? So without me having that surrounding or education of my inner excellence, I was hindered more to the outside detriments of not worthy enough, questioning myself because the that's what I knew based on the experience of living in this body for the first time. So I would definitely aid you to be more conscious enough to your decision making, because from your decision making, are you going to be able to be more aligned with your willpower? From your decision making, are you going to be able to conceive in what's right or what's wrong from you, right? From your thought process, are you going to be able to be guided by your days in the sense of what actions align with what you're envisioning for your life? You know, so inner excellence is definitely aligned with what willpower. It's like the word, right? So that's the inner excellence is who you are, but the bondage is the action that we showcase by being that, right? And with that, by discipline, excuse me, and consistency is where you can find inner excellence with that balance, right? Where you can find inner excellence with willpower. So you have to intuitively find what brings you joy, right? What brings you peace? What are you working along towards, right? What do you feel like your life calling is? All these things are eccentric for your inner excellence. But if you're not asking yourself these questions, or dare I say, even challenge yourself to that perspective, then your life mainly is going to be focused around the outer detriments, right? The pros and cons that our society and surrounding place upon you. So it's based on that balance. You know, I think for me wholeheartedly, this is a depth conversation because it's one of those inner excellence and outer detriment. It just goes into how you were educated again with the idealization of self love, and that's really what that complies to, right? Because excellence is not something that you can judge on a category of how much it's worth, right? It's literally your own view of success, right? So, God forbidding somebody shoot me right now, my biggest success right now in my life would be my fucking breath. Nothing else could deem anything else more, right? So it's all spectrum of how you're viewing such to be. So the factor that you can look at inner excellence and however you want to view it must be the reason why you want to be more intuitive to yourself. Because without knowing your likes and dislikes, you'll forever be controlled by the outer perspective of what is your likes and dislikes, right? And then once that season changed to this, to that, or this new wave, or whatever the word plays is, this out of style, not in style, then that's gonna be you. You're constantly changing with what your surrounding telling you to do. So how do you convey balance, right? How do you how do you find peace within your own intuition if it's led by you being a follower to somebody else's decision makings and influences? It's about taking your time. It's about really not being scared of living your life. And I know for majority of us, we join groups because we feel at loss within our own purpose. But you don't find your true group without you being lost, right? You have to go into your journey, and a lot of us are too scared. The thoughts are too scarce to actually be alone. So many people are so afraid to have a one-on-one conversation with the mirror themselves, right? So many people can't have silence, right? It has to be some sort of noise complying their brains or their minds on a consistent basis because they don't know how to live with themselves. How could you get into anything that you need in this lifetime if it's all about whatever the outer body desire, which is going to be the wants? So you must know your careabouts and your whereabouts, right? So how I would decode that, it's like whereabouts are the topics that we may say when by people, places, and things like hey, how you doing today? I'm fine. I'm doing great. So what's going on? Did you see the news yesterday? Or did you hear about this? You saw that performance. Those all are whereabout conversation. And to be truthful, majority of us have meaningless conversation on a daily basis because the human experience has made us become less of less of a truthful being that we just lie. Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm fine. I can't complain. Customers always right. It's like you plague this idea of keeping yourself guarded and grounded in a sense of not sharing your real true self, but you're living a lie. It's almost like also what example I can give you. It's like the career or work path, right? Majority of us go into a job or a work to be as average as fucking possible. Oh, this ain't my career. Oh, this ain't what I really want. Oh, I just work here to pay bills, right? Da 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 da. Right? So many excuses that could come up, right? But a lot of us don't understand that our time is our energy based upon what we're manifesting for the next moment, right? So, as average that you're proclaiming to be, and complaining that you don't love this or love that, well, if you love yourself enough, you might want to work a little fucking harder to give yourself what you deserve. Being average is just gonna let you be a fucking average person in your fucking average life. And for me, that's one of the best things I can applaud myself. I'm not the best of worker of all time or anything like that, but I would definitely admit, and I know that by my experience, and I know that by what I've been told, that it's hard for me to be replaced because the effort and energy that I give myself in that time is that I am the owner of the business that I work for currently. Right? So if it's not up to my value, guess what the fuck I'm gonna do? I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna leave it, right? Because you're not respecting me to that value, and I advise you what my worth and value is, or because you feel like you can play with me on my time, or because you feel like, oh, I don't want to start another. No, I'm always gonna pick me over somebody else telling me what my value is, right? So that's a limitless value. But I also know the reason why I could do that is because I know the work that I put in. I know that the effort that I put in, right? So for me to say 21 ain't enough for me for this job that I feel and deserve 25, I can't say that because of word. It has to be my fucking action, not only from saying it, but to actually be able to do it and to be consistent, to know that I'm actually improving, to know that they actually have the best person that they could have hired for that position. So how great do you want to be? So when you're following somebody else's footpath, how great can you actually fucking possibly be living in somebody else's footpath? Matter of fact, did that person tell you within that footpath that you're following that they actually had their own failures? But no, your problem is you want to see the ending result. You want to see the things, the ending incompletion. That'll be number 9, by the way. But no, you have to start from 1 to get to the ending incompletion, which is 9. And everybody's success is not to look or be viewed the same way. That's a big problem with our society, is that having a house is so demoralized because now, fuck about having a house. It's like, how big is it? Where are you located? What's around there? It's like, motherfucker, you better, if your success was having a place and having a place where you can provide yourself serendipity whenever you feel like, you're successful. You're fucking successful. But like I was telling you, our society kind of give us views upon what is placed to be successful or not successful, right? So do you have a house that's in this gated community? Do you have a house that's such bedroom? Are you making such and such amount? So on and so forth. The 1% life cannot be the 99% reality. It just don't make no fucking sense. So you yourself have to be more logical amongst knowing the game that the system is playing and attempting to showcase to you to play. It's not easy at all. It's not easy at all. I stand here to this day still fighting financial discipline, being more financially responsible, removing the emotional attachment that I have with finance, right? Being logical upon, if I buy this, I buy that. Where am I going to replace it from, right? And how long will it take me to replace? Those things are very hard to admit. Even what you'll realize that we do in our society, maybe you do it, but maybe you'll see some friends that do it, right? A lot of times people that spend money and they know, it's like you're spending money, like not necessarily, of course we're talking about the necessities, essentials of rent and stuff like that, everything, food, car, like, yeah, those are the essential factor of it, which is still crazy because, again, look how our country is utilizing us, where they're putting the basic necessities to be inflation, right? But within that, let's say if you're an advocate marijuana smoker, let's say if you into buying yourself clothes, jewelry, so on and so forth, right? All these little extracurricular activities it starts off like 99 cents that start piling off in your bank account, right? Or that start decreasing every little extra fund that you have after you pay your bills. That right there is one of the biggest issues that we have in our society, is that, like, we're not necessarily broke in the aspect of having money, is that we're constantly broke because there's constantly something else being fed to us among marketing, right? Being fed to us that we need or desire we shall have. That really limits you to actually make decisions for your own being or your own doing, right? You have the holidays that come up. You have the birthday reminders that come on, right? You have the anniversaries. We're built as a country to keep spending. Like, even how the schedule was set for somebody that worked 9 to 5, right? Monday through Friday. You work Monday through Friday to spend your money and give it back on the weekends, right? The entertainment, the clubs, whatever it is, right? You have to have more impact within your inner excellence to be able to even see the way what I just expressed to you, those out of detriment, right? Because you could have a situation where somebody having worked for 2, 3 months, whoever helping them, so on and so forth, right? What ends up happening once they get a job? Now they're going out more. All right, right? Now they need this, now they need that. That happened to me plenty of times. You don't got nothing today, right? But boom, let's say you got a job, you wait 2 weeks, a check come in for $1,200. Every bill that you were owed was $400. Now you got $800 left. How much can we actually save from that $800, right? That's not actually controlled. We can save a lot, but the way we're operated, the way we've been trained to be operated is to keep spending and spending and spending, right? The way we train is that based on the spending train, the spending train is that by if you don't buy something today, I'm a market you something by tomorrow. So in this guidance, I pray in essence that this conversation ascends you to a more connective place to your soul in regards to having more discipline, but also having compassion for yourself, right? Because you can't beat yourself up for what you don't know, and you most certainly can't beat yourself up for being manipulated, right? For being lied to, right? For being played upon, right? As citizens, the last thing we should worry about is that our government doesn't have our best interest when it comes to our health, when it comes to our food, when it comes to our finance, right? But in reality, you have to be logical enough to see it. You have to be logical enough to comply. This is nothing new under the sun from the fact that they've been doing it. They're continuously doing it, right? For the gaining capitalism. You can't continuously allow yourself to be influenced anymore. If you have that accountability, you then now have to move with the flow of that. I can be my own decision maker. And a lot of time with inner excellence, let me go to this route as well with you, right? Some people, when they hear that I'm a God or I'm a God, because there's some narcissistic views of such title, some people do run away from that. But a part of your inner excellence is serving that higher God if you are feeling like I'm a God, right? So for me to say I'm a God means that, well, first and foremost, me saying that is me labeling myself, not nobody else, right? And me not overpowering anyone else, right? It's me labeling myself, right? But in that same labelization comes principles, accountabilities that I must take, right? Because if I'm not a God, right, and I stress to not be a God, then I would be the opposition. So let's not even go with the religion aspect. Let's just say I'm positive. If I claim to be positive, then there's positive actions that I do that acclaim me to maturate in the side of positivity, right? But if I'm saying positive things, but my actions are negative, then it's not in alignment to what my wording is. So the reason why I said that, it's like, because you make a statement of being a God or you're godly, anything like that, that has nothing to do with anyone or anything else. It's about you being impulsive to what you care for and where you feel your life is needed and required of going, right? You're not placing this term, I'm a God or a goddess, in the sense of like, every motherfucker bow down to me. I'm the king of everything. I know everything. No. If you're going to align yourself as a God or a goddess, you then know to whom's given and what much is required. You then know that what you naturally a leader of yourself and your surrounding, right? You're naturally your own governor. You're naturally your own president. You're naturally your own country. However you want to decode that, once you confine yourself to be your own God, is really presenting yourself in a place that whatever happens in this lifetime, amongst when our death day arrives, we can't control that. Amongst even external success, and I think that's why the conversation grew into the idealization of what's the difference between such, right? Of having the inner excellence versus outer detriment, right? Because inner success is so bled upon having assistance from other people, right? To be successful, it takes a village. It takes a village, right? But then also we in a society that teaches us in the capitalistic ways that it's about you, is that you're successful based upon what you can do and get accomplished. And it's the funniest shit ever. Like you'll find a motherfucker who got a loan from their rich ass daddy, so on and so forth, 100,000, who didn't have to pay the school for school because they family had it. So let's not even say it like because they were rich, right? But or let's just say they family had no money, but the mom and dad gave them a structured place, a structure and stability amongst like having a home and so forth. And then the motherfucker would grow up and be like, oh, I did this all by myself. Oh, like I'm successful. How the fuck? How the fuck would you be able to do all that by yourself? Clearly not. It takes people, placing in things that unify with you, that emerges with you to make us to be in completion, right? It takes a village to raise us. Any of us, man or woman, it takes a village, right? Whether some of us may have the best internal upgrowing situation regarding parents, guardians, so on and so forth, right? That can possibly give you everything you need, but still, when it comes to being educated, the world educators, right? Even if I don't want it to happen, it's going to happen, meaning like if I'm a father, or if I'm a parent, meaning that me and the mother have child and there's ways that we wanted to showcase them this or that, right? And if I'm a person, for example, like I believe in procreation, so I'm educating my kids amongst the vagina and the penis and how those come up together to make another form of human life, right? I also gotta be logical amongst that. Like we're in a society that's not what everybody thinks nor believe, right? So, so you have to have a clarification amongst where, hey son, hey daughter, let me teach you about this inner excellence of your growth, right? Of your body, right? Of the procreation of life, but also let me give you the outer detriments that can make it a little confusing for you in the sense of that, hey, there's some people out there that they're interested in the same sex. There's some people out there that they want to switch their sex. They want to be the opposite sex, right? There's some people out there that feel like the roles of a man should be like a woman and vice versa, a role. So you want to be able to give a child or a human being the best ways, the best options, I would say, the best options, right? It's like if there's 3 ways to do things, I'd rather give you 3 ways of doing it rather than me telling you, no, the way I do it is the best way. Forget the other 2, right? So you give a person option and allow that person to choose what's best for them. And I think that's the best way you are able to confine your inner excellence, right? What's meaningful to you, and then you'll be able to separate. It's kind of like the internet, right? To find the truth in something, it's a lot of loophole. And that's what we really have when it comes to the intuition, in the sense when it comes to what's purposeful for you and what's acceptable for the next person. You know what I mean? So in this conversation, I'm assuming that you was able to affirm these words, were able to visualize these words into the action into your life, and complying these affirmation and visualization and unity. I pray that you apply this into the manifestation, which going to be the practices, right? it's going to be you acting those things out, whether it's you taking some time to sit with your thoughts, sit with the ideas that you convey in, right? Questioning yourself, and within this questioning, attempting to find answers within those questions, right? So that's the truth, inner truth based on you confining into that inner excellence. And also with that, same with the outer detriment. Why am I doing this? Where did I learn this from, right? Like for me, smoking marijuana. That was something I was against when I was in my early 15, 16, 17, whatever. And then at 21, 22, although my friends were doing it for years, I got into it based on feeling like a stressful situation. So I questioned myself after 6 months or 8 months of doing it, based on the standard ways I'm doing it. Like I explained in a different podcast, which was that for most of us, we understand marijuana to get you fried, you high, you get munchies, so on and so forth, right? And that's just really the social education. So for me, I was able to be blessed, one, from me having a willpower in a mind that was like, bro, you ain't never smoked before. I know you had a stressful situation at your job, this, that, and the third, that when you was at 20, when you 22, that made you start smoking, right? But then within me start smoking, I just got into the normal path or whatever my friends were doing, rolling up, listen to music, get high, be on Instagram, the shenanigans, right? So months later of me smoking marijuana now got me to question myself in the sense of like, why are you doing this now? Like, why, right? And the compelling factor for me being having that why question or what's the benefits behind it, having those questions of curiosity to the action that I was uh, doing consistently now, those questions allowed me to be guided to where I was able to learn a new view of marijuana, right? Being able to smoke with meditation in my mindset, being able to smoke and understand that I want my inner truth based on how I feel and what I care for to be revealed, right? So from there, it went on to just like, again, the social standard. Me and my friends would get high, we go, you know, fast food place, we go music, you know what I'm saying? Just the simplistic ways of whatever we saw other people smoking, and also how that effect should be, right? So for me, being able to learn so much in depth perspective of how I could utilize the plant, and again, grateful as thankful that Mr. Bob Marley showcased that to me, which way he expressed that the marijuana should reveal you to yourself, right? The things that you like to do. Like for him, he said, I don't get high and sit down and get mellow. Sometimes, depending on the herb strand, he said, yeah, of course, it can get you to that point. But if you intuitively getting high for that perspective of indulging in your peace, and for that perspective of looking inward for your creativity. He's like, yeah, it takes him to the point where he would go play soccer high. He would go write music, go perform high, right? He would go have one of the most in-depth spiritual conversation while he high, because he took it upon not being useful of how this medicine was utilized in in the world at that time, right? In the sorority, but utilizing it for his own sacred place of being and doing, finding that tranquility based on his actions, right? Pretty much setting that plant to give him that peace. And for me, that really transitioned my whole life, because instead of smoking on the standard perspective of like, oh, get high, or anything from that perspective of just like, I just want to have fun type marijuana, it changed for me. It alternated to where, yeah, I was smoking, be able to breathe, right? Being able to breathe, to understand that like I'm inhaling and exhaling to find more peace in myself, right? So the things that I like to do as a writer, I get high, end up getting more insight from my spirit about what I should write, right? I'm into health. I'm into my fitness. I get high, and my spirit will be driven like, yo, let's go work on ourselves. Let's go take care of our body. Let's keep that body strong, right? Mindfulness. Sometimes it could be either information coming into me like I'm a portal, right? Or externally, based on me meditating and looking to view more purposeful information. Mindfulness will present to me either by people, places, and things some of the knowledge that I was interested or I didn't know I was going to be receiving, but being in the right place and the right mindset guiding me there. You know what I'm saying? So it's a complex work, and in totality, inner excellence, I feel like you just have to understand you and understand what works for you and understand where you're going to really define and confine into your inner excellence. Outer detriment to me is you have to know what's right or wrong for you. You have to study, study your surroundings, study the world amongst what's said to be and what's not to be. And lastly, having the true truth of outer detriments to be right or wrong for you would be the action, the experience, right? What like you being able to know by emotions, by the mental, physical, or spiritual feeling that's gravitated based on a certain subject or a thing or a place that lets you know that's right, rather than being only consumed by somebody else's wording, being only consumed by somebody else's action, and accepting that to be as. And that's where you would be in a full outer detriment because you didn't comply in a full three-way process of learning such truth. You know, so this what I was guided to give, and this is where I'm gonna finish off. Um, in one way, I wanted to start this podcast by orchestrating to you that there's so much that I want to be, there's so much that I want to do. For a lot of time, for me, I hindered myself because perfection kept me hitting my imperfection. You want to wait till you get to or you become your best version of yourself to showcase the world who you are. Sometimes you might receive death before that occurs. And the best who you are to be presented today is you right now. So I say that because a point of me is a little disappointed in myself and frustrated in the sense of not being doing the videos currently, or a certain situation where my audio. I listen to my podcast. Okay, I know it could be a little bit more clear. I'll be transparent. Sometimes I'm at home. Sometimes I'm at work. So I haven't found a full direct background of recording yet, nor have I set in stone with background music, and obviously with background music, the plague with that is the copyright situation, right? And I'm trying my best to have it to be entertained, having it to be fully clearful, so where you'll be able to understand everything that I'm saying in clarity, right? And to me, I'm not gonna beat myself up in what I don't have. I'm gonna love myself for what I do have and just make it happen. So, in that same point, I just wanted to tell you that yeah, I want to be better, and I can't wait to be better. But I'm still gonna place my attempt in today. You could never fail if you place your effort in all your attempts. You know what I'm saying? So I'm I'm gonna put all my efforts in my tries, and though it can always be better, I know that, but I'm always understanding that like I didn't quit, I didn't give up, and that's gonna be the main thing. The main thing has to be the main thing, and that's consistency. You have to keep trying. You have to keep going. And I really appreciate you giving me that opportunity to speak to you, speak towards you, speak life in with you. Oh man, like I said, really grateful as thankful. I've also felt a little flustered as well, and obviously you may hear it at times from me because of my vocalization. Sometimes it goes in and out with a circumstance that I deal with my breath threshold. But also, I'm a very charismatic person, and I think sometimes I want to sound very like not I want. I know the game of what it is to sound cool. You are now listening to the MB9T podcast show. It's your host, Mr.BasTiEn. Da 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 da. You know. I could, but at the same time, I'm more focusing on just speaking my truth and however that sound is going to sound. I've I've I'm trying, but it just doesn't work out the best for me when I try to do what is called like pre gaming in the sense of like, hey, this is gonna be the topic, and I'm gonna stick to this, that, and the third. That'd probably be best later on when I get a co-host, but for me, I just want to let my spirit have my body to use as a microphone, as a vessel to speak outward. I try my best not to have a look or a view of like, oh, this is how I'm gonna capture people's eyes or this that. I don't give a fuck about that. I feel like the truth is gonna hit you no matter if you're trying to run away from it or if you find comfort in it. You know what I'm saying? If it's truthful, it's gonna penetrate. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna ricochet. It's gonna leave a ricochet effect to where you know the impact. And that's where I'm more focused on rather than like, oh man, I like the guy vibe. Listen how you talk and all that. I know I could do that. I know I could make it sound amazing. You know what I'm saying? I got an eclectic persona. You know what I mean? I could make it be like, what's happening, dog? The boy from Bride kind, this, that, and the third, all blah, 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 blah. But I'm just more singularly focused on just speaking depth, speaking knowledge, and speaking trill. I'm not trying to be a ladies' man on this podcast. I'm not trying to be, quote unquote, a real nigga on this podcast. I'm trying to be a real spiritual human. That's like, that's my only focal point, to be real. In my diversity of music lover, sport lover, so on and so forth, there's many ways I could have kind of picked a lane for this podcast or different podcasts, I should say. But for this podcast, this was literally MB9T, Mr.BasTiEn podcast show. It's all about me complying to my emotions by people placing the things and expressing those outwardly in the moments that I feel to. So thank you for your time again, your appreciation and understanding. You are loved without you knowing you love. I love you like nobody else may. You know what I'm saying? Because if you give me your time, you give me your respect, then that's unconditional love that I could ask for. Change is inevitable. Um, that we know is for certain. So why be so caught up with what we know is going to happen? The changes, but for the moment of time, for the moment of respect, you have love. You know what I'm saying? If you have that, if you can give that to yourself, then you got unconditional love. Again, people, places and things, inevitably they're going to change. Just make sure that unconditional love stays for you, and all shall be the same. Again, grateful as thankful. I'm about to go ahead and cut this motherfucker off. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ending and completion. Ain't no other number. Fuck, you thought I was gonna say 10? Fuck out of here. Stupid!